And the first thing I tell them is pick 3 things a day off of that list and make sure that it's driving towards that one thing for the next quarter. And you'd be amazed if you focus that way and you only pick, and this is for, beginning entrepreneurs. If you pick those 3 things in 3 months, you will have driven your business forward at least 100% faster than without having these things that you pre-selected. And you need, especially as a solopreneur, you need, again, I said, someone to be there, to be an accountability partner, right?
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Pontau. Each week, I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week, I'm excited to connect with Laura Lorenz. She is basically the trusted advisor for small businesses. With an incredible 35-year journey supporting entrepreneurs, Laura isn't just a business counselor, she's a true champion for dream chasers and business builders. Her passion? Helping passionate people transform their business ideas into thriving realities. Having walked the entrepreneurial path herself as a business owner, Laura brings this wonderful blend of professional expertise and heartfelt understanding to everything she does. She's not just about cold, hard business strategy. She's about real-world, compassionate guidance that comes from genuinely living the entrepreneurial experience. Where you're dreaming of launching a startup, need help crafting a rock-solid business plan, want to understand your market inside and out, or looking for smart management advice, Laura is your go-to guide. She's dedicated to arming small business owners with the tools, insights, and confidence they need to not just survive, but truly shine in the business world. Congrats on helping passionate people transform their business ideas into thriving realities, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thank you, Karl.
So one of the things I think I learned really early when I was starting my business a long time ago was that there's so much about building a business that entrepreneurs don't know they don't know when they're first starting off. And I imagine for even someone who's scaling a business, the skill set you need to grow a business from one stage to the next versus like the following stage, you have to build whole new habits and skills. So what are some of the habits that entrepreneurs need to learn when they're first starting off to be successful, making that jump from maybe the corporate world to an entrepreneurial one?
Well, the first thing is to know that you need help, because doing it all by yourself is very, very difficult. It's hard to be the chief cook and bottle washer. So having the right people around you, whether that's a consultant, a coach, a mentor, really helps. And the first thing that I really have my people look at is, what is the vision or the goal or the purpose of this business? Because if they don't have that down pat, it's like so easy to see that squirrel, like, ooh, now I'm going to get off on AI, and all of a sudden your regular work isn't happening because you've got this squirrel over here that seems more exciting, right? Because a lot of entrepreneurship is, I hate saying this, but drudgery. I mean, it's the bookkeeping. It's the things that people don't necessarily like to do or didn't even think that they were going to have to do when they were starting their business. So having that vision of what the business is about helps you from straying into all of those squirrel kind of things.
And it's funny how that lack of vision or lack of focus is, obviously it's really important when you're first starting a business, but it's evident how even more established companies struggle with that focus and having everyone aligned with the vision, and they don't really know what their intended purpose was when the company first started, because they get so wrapped up with scaling that they've lost that guiding light, and the leadership is also, like you said, wrapped up with AI or kind of tracing trends or trying to dealing with FOMO from like the hype of a new technology like AI, and they forget what their real purpose is, and that like I said, those squirrels really have a huge impact on the success of the business, because once the leadership team doesn't know where they're going, it ruins everything else for the business.
That's true. So for me, I have my clients actually look at that every 6 months, if not every quarter, to make sure that they're still on track, to make sure that the vision is there, to make sure that they're hiring for their core values, not hiring for a skill that they see this guy is great at, right? So here's my vision, here's my core values. Let's make sure we look at them, we make sure that they are still appropriate, because certainly there are times in a business when you're scaling that you may want to add a product or a service to what you're doing to continue increasing your revenue. But a lot of times, again, they'll add something that isn't really focusing on, here's what my business intended to solve and for who should I be solving it for.
Yeah, I think with the automated tools that a lot of companies use when in the hiring processes, it's easy to look for, do they have the skills to do a certain job, but they can't really judge if they're a good fit culturally, and they're not even really assessing that in interviews as well as they should. And so you end up getting a team that doesn't really work well together, or don't really end up, there's the lack of workplace culture that forms when you're just kind of throwing people together for just the skills, that ends up undermining their ability to use those skills, because they're not getting the support or the leadership or the guidance they need to perform at the level you expect them to.
Right, exactly. When you hire for skills, skills can always be taught, even soft skills, but you have to hire for that cultural fit, right? So that the team, like I had a marketing agency for 10 years with a partner, and we would, of course, look for the skills. Like we're trying to hire a web designer. So what has this web designer done? And, how good are they at programming and all that? But when we brought the person in, we made sure that they understood. We used to have big posters of vision and core values, so that it was in their face every day. This is how we're supposed to be working. This is who we're helping, all of that kind of thing. And when you're hiring and asking questions, if they don't sound like they fit into those values, then I don't care how great they are. They disrupt the team and it doesn't work.
And so when you're working with entrepreneurs, and when they're trying to build these habits, what are some of the kind of habits they should be building into their day to help them avoid making these mistakes of getting distracted by like the squirrels and focusing on the wrong hires, that sort of stuff?
Sure. So what I do is we build a roadmap. I'll call it a roadmap for, usually it's a quarter, because things change so quickly in our lives right now that if you're doing a year, forget it. By the time you're halfway through the year, things have changed and you need to manage things differently. So let's look at the first quarter and say, what is the most important, the one thing that we can do to drive our business forward, right? And usually it's revenue in the beginning, without a doubt, because you got to have enough money to hire people. But and break that down into daily things that you can do to keep you focused on that one thing. I had so many clients that had come in with their to-do lists, and they were just overwhelmed with so much work. And the first thing I tell them is pick 3 things a day off of that list and make sure that it's driving towards that one thing for the next quarter. And you'd be amazed if you focus that way and you only pick, and this is for, beginning entrepreneurs, if you pick those 3 things, in 3 months, you will have driven your business forward at least 100% faster than without having these things that you pre-selected. And you need, especially as a solopreneur, you need, again, I said, someone to be there, to be an accountability partner, right? To be able to say, I'm having these challenges and I don't know what to do, kind of thing, because that happens all the time. How many obstacles have you run through in running your business, Karl?
I mean, when I was running the business, it was all the time I was having and it's still, listen, I think there's having someone that you can, like the accountability partners and like a mentor, someone who can basically, who's walked the path you're on or something somewhere that can point out the potholes or the switchbacks, the kind of sharp turns that you could be coming up that you're not even aware of or don't know to look for, is so valuable. And so if you're for any stage of a business, having that support network is invaluable, because it's way harder to try and navigate things yourself.
Yep, it is. And there's so many ways to find a mentor like that. You can pay somebody, or you can have an accountability partner that you've, just decided that the two of you are going to help each other. The one pitfall of that I have found when I've tried it personally is that accountability partner and you have differing things that they're trying to accomplish, right? So you're just helping each other grow. And a lot of times you'll be hitting an obstacle at the same time. And all of a sudden the calls drop off because you're freaking out about how to manage whatever you're managing. So hiring somebody who is specifically hired to work with you and you alone on your business is a much better route to go. But again, there are ways to do it that you don't have to pay.
Yeah, and actually, I was talking with someone about an earlier episode about finding a mentor, and it was something that they said he started a business with two of his business partners that turned into kind of mentors of his. But it started off just as building a relationship. It wasn't like they walked up and said, "I want you to be my mentor, help me," because you're not honestly offering value, but finding someone who going out and building relationships that are not just like on the transactional level with people will help you discover who those real mentors are, because they'll have a deeper understanding of who you are and your goals and what you're really experiencing. Mm-hmm. And they'll have a much stronger connection than if you're just reaching out to like someone cold and asking for advice. So I think we're finding mentors. If you're either hiring a coach or someone you're paying for that service, or looking at the strong relationships you have with people that are in your industry that could be able to give advice. But it's something that you need to approach the right way, because if you just kind of go up there asking people to help you without establishing that trust or those relationships, and can come across as like, if you're not going to pay them, then like it's going to be tough to find someone in the time frame you need them to give you some really valuable advice.
100% agree. However, I am with you that having relationships with people in business that maybe do the same thing that you do, or even other things. Like I just got off a fabulous call with a connection of mine where he is a sales coach. And that's not something that I do, but my businesses need. And he doesn't have somebody who builds strategy for the companies, right? So he called me and he said, "Hey, I have this problem with a client. I'd love to bring you in on this so you can help." So again, it's having all of those relationships that will help you build your business, without a doubt.
So I'd imagine, as someone who's helped entrepreneurs build these habits, you probably have some success stories that might help people give some context, the sort of habits need to be focusing on. So can you share some of those success stories with us?
Sure. So one of the guys that I'm working with is a graphic designer. He's a solopreneur. And when he came to me, he was like almost all entrepreneurs, where he was just scattered everywhere, right? And so for the first 6 months of us working together, we got him narrowed down to what does he need to focus on for his business. And once he got there, the first year that we worked together, he doubled his income. So, I mean, it's having that person there to keep saying to you, are you doing the things that you need to do, or are you finding those shiny objects? Because even I find the shiny objects. I mean, we all do. I have a coach for that very reason. Please come and tell me, Laura, come back. This is what your business is about. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, that was super successful. I think the most success that I hear from people and the recommendations that I've gotten are all about helping them really just get organized to understand where they should be and how to manage their time, because that's the other thing. We're having to do our bookkeeping and our marketing and not just doing the things that we love. And so how do we fill the time in the week to do all of the things that we need to do without dropping the ball anywhere?
Yeah, I think that's something that time management, even if you're a solopreneur or a part of a larger company, there's almost always more things you could be doing than you have time to handle. And so doing an audit of what are the most, what are those 3 most important things you need to be focusing your time on each day, and then saying no to everything else is essential, because there's, especially with like the alerts on people's phones and things that are
sorry, my assistant always has to somehow come
cat's coming in here. For those listening, her cat decided to join the call. That's adorable. Yeah, so speaking of distractions, yeah, there's other things that could be distracting you from what your most important role is in your business. And so as your businesses grow and becomes more complicated, and if you're delegating things to people, knowing that what needs to be delegated and what needs to be done by you is something that is a consistent challenge for leaders as they go from like a solopreneur to a small team to a larger company, is those fundamentals of what is the best use of my time and what can I delegate to people is a habit that new entrepreneurs need. And often by the time, if you're scaling a business, you need to rebuild those habits because they've likely been either gone lax or have not been updated often enough to have peak performance as the leader of a business.
I agree. I think, scaling a business is one of the hardest things that you do. From solopreneur to your first 5 to your next 5, your business changes completely, right? And having that knowledge of what can they do and what can I do. I mean, we used to blow up my agency every 6 months because we were growing that fast, and we had to figure out not just how to manage that with the people, but how to, again, we were talking about culture and how do we keep what we started the way that it started while we grow with all these different people that have different feelings about things. And it is a challenge, there is no doubt, but there is nothing more rewarding in my mind than being that entrepreneur and growing that baby almost, right? Because you're raising it from an infancy to now I have, it's a teenager and it's got different problems and things like that. So sorry, I have the kid analogy going just because I have children. Hey, I noticed your cat just walked by too. So
yes, we have cats joining us on this episode today. I think it's something that for growing the challenges from growing like from solo to like a 15-person company, even from like 5 million to 100 million company, there's the challenges are definitely different, but it's still, when it comes to like the leader's mindset and the focus the leader needs to have on maintaining that vision and understanding what their like priorities are for how they spend their time is such a universal foundation for business that so many people struggle with, because there's so many things vying for our attention, like you said, those squirrels. And so even though your focus is on entrepreneurs, it's a lesson that I think any leader could be use a refresher course in, because there's almost always room to revisit these habits and reapply them for your own and your company's benefit. So thank you so much for connecting with me today, Laura. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please leave a review and share it. If you'd like to connect with myself or Laura, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.